Billionaire disguises as a homeless man. The shocking family test that broke hearts forever. It was a scene straight out of a twisted fairy tale, a wealth-soaked spectacle you wouldn't believe unless you saw it with your own eyes. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the bustling city streets. In the midst of this urban chaos, a figure emerged. He wore tattered clothes that clung to his frame like a second skin. A battered beanie hid his neatly combed hair, and a wild beard obscured the sharp jawline of a man who, hours earlier, had been sitting in his high-rise office, counting stacks of money. He was a billionaire in disguise, morphing into a homeless man for an experiment that promised to shake the very foundation of his family. People hardly glanced his way, too engulfed in their lives to notice the wealth disguised as despair. But those who did, their faces twisted in confusion and pity, a mix of shock and disdain. "Look at that poor soul," a woman whispered to her friend as they walked by, their heels clicking against the concrete. A lump formed in her throat, and her heart sank at the sight. But none could imagine the truth behind those haunted eyes, which held secrets more valuable than gold. The initial thrill of deception danced in the air. Above this street magician-esque game, neon lights flickered as laughter erupted from nearby bars. But lurking beneath the surface was tension, palpable and thick. Because while he played the part of a lost drifter, a storm brewed within him. His heart raced like a caged animal, beating against his chest. Beneath the guise, he was a man desperate to find out who truly loved him. Was it the family that loved his money? Or would they truly care if they knew he was struggling just like them? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As he huddled on the cold pavement, the city around him felt deafeningly silent, a fraction of a moment hanging in the balance. His breath quickened, heart racing. He was one step away from tearing off the mask. What if no one noticed? The thought sent shivers down his spine. With every passing second, he felt the weight of betrayal. Was he really a stranger to his own family? He needed proof, a testament to the love he desperately craved. Just then, a figure approached, a young girl with wide eyes clutching a toy. She eyed him with curiosity, maybe recognizing the humanity beneath the grimy facade. A spark ignited in his heart. Maybe there was hope, just maybe. But would it be crushed by the climax of this heart-wrenching test? Would she shatter the illusion and see the truth? As he watched her taking tentative steps closer, he felt a surge of emotion. The overwhelming need to protect and connect surged through him. But then, a voice echoed in the distance, a frantic shout from the approaching crowd. The moment hung by a thread. Who would reveal what first? And would he dare to unveil his true self before it was too late? The crowd thickened, a tidal wave of bodies moving toward him, pushing the little girl back with their urgency. Panic tightened in his chest. His instincts screamed for him to flee, to hide his true identity. Yet, something about her tiny form, so brave yet frail, anchored him to the ground. "Get out of the way!" a man shouted, rushing past, almost stepping on the girl's toy. She stumbled back, eyes wide and teary, glancing between her fallen bear and the man approaching. He could feel the heat throughout his cheeks. This was not how it was supposed to go. The spotlight, once on the girl, was now on him. Couldn't anybody see? He was just a man, just someone trying to understand the forces that shaped his life until now. "Hey, are you okay?" she whispered, bending down to touch the motionless toy. Perhaps it was the innocence in her voice that broke through the noise, momentarily halting reality around them. But his heart hammered louder than before. The girl's question was the last piece of the puzzle. He needed a child, untainted by the desire for wealth or status, reaching out in a world that thrived on secrecy. "I'm fine," he managed, each word bubbling out with the weight of 1,000 lies. Just then, the roaring crowd caught up, parting to make way for a group of well-dressed individuals. He recognized them immediately. His family, their faces painted with rare concern and worry. His heart dropped. They had come looking for him, of all days, of all times. Did they have any idea what he was really doing? Where the hell were you? His brother bellowed, eyes scanning the sidewalk like a hawk searching for a lost lamb. You can't just disappear. We thought you, but he couldn't hear the rest. The din of their voices morphed into a haunting lullaby, a reminder of his loneliness even in the presence of family. He clenched his fists, wishing he could slip back into anonymity. Yet, here he stood, a living contradiction, crumbling under scrutiny. The girl, sensing the tension, took a step back, her small hands rising defensively. Others were whispering now, is that really him? No way. Murmurs buzzed like angry bees. His family pushed past the girl, oblivious to the child's bravery in standing her ground. Dad, is that you? His daughter's voice sliced through him like glass. Her tone was naive, innocent, but it shattered the facade he had so carefully woven. He could barely process the sight of her, his little girl, her eyes wide with hope. In that moment, time stood still. Would he reveal himself now? A storm brewed inside him, torn between the man he was desperate and disheveled, and the billionaire he had shielded from them all. Suddenly, a soft touch met his shoulder. He turned to find the little girl, with wide, innocent eyes, gazing up at him, pleading with the kind of purity only children can muster. Are you lost? She asked softly. It felt like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters, a chance to connect, to bridge the chasm that money had carved through his family. Would he take the plunge? But as he began to speak, a piercing scream erupted from the crowd, ripping through the thick tension. Someone had collapsed. The scene exploded into chaos, pulling every eye and ear toward the danger. But in the cradle of that moment, he saw the girl slip away, vanishing into the throng. The question burned in his mind like a wildfire. Would he follow the truth into the chaos, or retreat into the shadows of betrayal once more? What awaited him in that world of frantic panic? Could they discover the real him, hidden beneath layers of grief and deception? The answers screamed for attention, drawing him in, but he stood still, caught between two worlds, one foot in reality and the other in the fragile threads of facades. And life held its breath. The crowd erupted into a cacophony of gasps and shouts. Nothing familiar about it, but the sheer chaos. Bodies jostled, pushing him instinctively toward the scene of commotion. His family fanned out, faces strained with horror and disbelief, scanning the ground like jaguars on the hunt. People pointed nervously at the flailing figure on the pavement, a woman crumpled amid a swirl of confusion. He stole a glance at her. What was it? A heart attack? A seizure? The crowd seemed to want answers, but all they got was fear, a palpable wave washing over him. Yet, as he turned back, desperation clawed at his gut. Where was the little girl? Had she gotten lost in the tide? Call 911, someone cried, piercing the air like a knife. His family huddled near the fallen woman, concern painting their features as they tried to ascertain what they could do. The urgency emitted from them was palpable, but their focus was entirely on the unknown figure. It left him feeling empty, like a puff of smoke, unseen and untouched, but the chaos intensified. More screams emerged, spurring his instincts. He needed to find the girl. What if she had been trampled in the surge? The thought twisted his insides, tighter than a noose. He pushed through the throng, the crowd thickening again. It was as if the mass was a living entity, unwilling to yield. Just when his hope of locating her began to wane, he spotted a flash of red. Her dress? The forgotten bear? It was lying on the ground, untouched yet ominous, just beyond the encroaching bodies. Hey, you, little girl. His voice broke through the din, but it was swallowed in the frenzy. He risked a glance around, scanning every child's face. A pit of dread sank into his stomach. When had he become so disconnected? He cursed himself for even lingering too long with his family. The needs of that little girl, the only innocent one who genuinely cared, called to him, that a small hand tugged at his jacket from behind. He whipped around in shock. She stood there, the girl, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, yet still fixed on him with unwavering faith. "You were looking for me?" she asked, her voice ringing with clarity above the turmoil. "Yes. Thank you for finding me." He knelt to her level, heart pounding. "Are you okay?" She reached for him, her tiny fingers brushing the fabric of his coat. The moment seemed like an eternity as the world spun around them in confusion. It was just he and the little girl, tethered to one another amid the messy chaos. He couldn't help but think, what if she was a savior disguised as a child? Hadn't he already played the role of the stranger, hiding from those that truly mattered, while longing for connection? Here she was, pure as dawn, extending a hand into his darkness. In a split-second decision, he picked her up, cradled her in his arms. He knew he had to shield her from the madness, to get her away from it all. "We need to find a safe place, all right?" he murmured, but before they could move, his brother's voice boomed above the crowd. "Dad!" He felt the moment blunt the tenderness, the armor he had constructed around himself cracking just enough to let the vulnerability seep through. His brother's gaze shifted from confusion to horror as he took in the sight of them. "What are you doing?" "Put her down." Fear twisted his chest like a handsaw. He had crossed the line, mingling with the innocent while exposing his own guilt. Had he betrayed his family even further? Yet, as he looked down at her, that tiny face gazing up with pure hope, he hesitated. The crowd continued to erupt in frantic whispers, but all he could hear was the sound of a heartbeat, his and hers, connected in this moment of madness. "Please, just trust me," he whispered to her, somehow knowing it wasn't just for her comfort, but for his own as well. Then, everything shifted. A sudden shout cut through the throngs of police, siren blaring in the distance. The girl's eyes widened with fear, mirroring his own. What happened now? Would they pull him back into the clutches of the ugly truth he had run from? Or could he tether himself to the brighter life he yearned for? In that instant, the only thought racing through his mind was that he had been given another chance. But at what cost? As the world began to close in around him, and sirens grew louder, a surge of resolve erupted. Would he stand his ground against the tidal wave of truths that would confront him? He couldn't slip away again. Not today. But light flickered, and in the panic of heartbeats and cries, he froze, waiting for whatever storm loomed ahead. How would he confront his past and protect the future at the same time? Would he rise or fall again? The sirens blared louder, piercing through the thick fog of anxiety that had settled around him. His heart raced, drumming heavily against his ribs. The little girl clung to him, her small hands gripping the fabric of his coat, as though it were a life raft in the swelling sea of panic. "Don't be scared," he said, feeling more like a fraud with each word. His comfort was as fragile as a soap bubble, ready to burst. He had no idea how to protect her from the chaos swirling around them, and yet the grip of her innocence wrapped around his heart, squeezing tightly. "Let us go over there," he decided, pointing to a small alleyway that trailed off to the side. It seemed quieter, away from the rising terror of the crowd, a sanctuary even though it was just a few yards away. As he moved, he felt his brother's eyes on him, burning with accusation. "Wait, what are you doing?" his brother shouted, forcing his way through the mass of bodies. He barely heard his brother, his focus only on the girl. With each step, his determination hardened. Protecting her was all that mattered now. The alley offered refuge from the shouting mass, but as he entered, a different kind of tension thickened the air. The space was dim, the light a dirty gray filtered through the surrounding buildings. Cardboard boxes huddled against the walls like lost souls, and the smell of discarded food and garbage assaulted his senses. But the girl's presence ignited a flicker of hope in the darkened corners of the alley. "Are we safe here?" she whispered, her voice shaking ever so slightly. He glanced back at the throngs outside, the chaos still spiraling. "For now, just stay close, okay?" He felt the weight of her faith in him like an anchor. If he failed her, he would lose more than he could bear. Suddenly, a commotion erupted in the street. "Get out of the way!" someone shouted. Two officers barreled through the crowd, urgency spilling from their movements. The little girl flinched at the sound, digging her fingers deeper into his coat. "What they find us?" she asked, eyes wide with concern. He crouched down, looking her square in the eye. "They're not looking for us. They're just trying to help the woman." With every nerve in his body, he clung to that lie, desperate to protect the fragile slice of peace he'd wrangled hold of. But he could feel the cracks in his conviction beginning to show. Why did that lady fall? What happened? The innocence of her questions cut deep, and he struggled to find words to shield her from the harsh truths lurking in the air. "I don't know," he replied, trying to sound assured, but his voice faltered. "All I can say is, some days are just hard. But you're okay. You're safe with me." Outside, the cacophony rose once more, a whirlpool of fear and confusion. Every sound felt amplified, and in that moment of uncertainty, doubt crept into his mind. Would he be able to keep this little girl safe? Could he face his past, who he was really, what he had done while trying to be her protector? His brother's frantic voice echoed through the alley, slicing through his thoughts. "Dad, where are you?" The unity of his family pulled at him like gravity, tempting him back to the chaos, to the people he'd let down. But then he looked at the girl. She was the only one who mattered now. As he wrestled with the decision to choose between the fear of his past and the innocence of her existence, something caught his eye in the distance. A shadow was moving faster than the others, weaving skillfully through the crowd. Was it coming for them? His heart pounded harder, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He couldn't let her become a victim of his mistakes. "Stay here," he whispered urgently, guiding her behind a stack of boxes. Their shelter felt fragile, as though it could disappear with a single breath. The figure approached, growing larger. Was it an ally or a threat? He took a deep breath, gathering the courage he needed. No matter what transpired, he knew one thing for certain. He would rise from the shadows and face whatever darkness lay ahead. But time was ticking, and he had to act fast. What path would he choose? As the figure stepped into the light, he was met with a choice that could alter the course of everything. Would he be the protector she needed, or would he once again slip into the clutches of the past? The figure stepped into the light, and his heart sank like a stone. There, panting heavily, stood a woman. She was disheveled, clothes torn and dirty, her face streaked with grime, but marked by an unmistakable familiarity. It was a face he had known too well. "Mom?" He breathed, shock gripping his throat like a vice. The little girl tugged at his sleeve, confusion mixing with innocence in her wide eyes. "Is she safe?" As he instinctively stepped forward, memories flooded in like a tidal wave. Summer days spent laughing together, bedtime stories filled with magic and wonder. But those days felt like a lifetime ago, buried under layers of hurt and abandonment. Now, this frail woman, who had once filled their home with warmth, stood before him like a ghost from his worst nightmares. "Please help me," she rasped, each word dragging against her cracked lips. There was desperation that reached for him, but beneath it lurked something darker. He remembered the nights when he lay awake, listening to the haunting sounds of arguments, the sting of guilt for being unable to save her. No, he turned away, wanting to shield the little girl from the turmoil spiraling inside him. "You shouldn't be here." "Why?" she cried, her voice quivering. "You're ashamed of me? I made mistakes, I know, but it wasn't your fault. It was never your fault. Mom, just go." Desperation seared through his words. The last thing he wanted was to drag the girl into the mess of his past, a past where chaos had no boundaries and hurt lingered like an unwelcome shadow. But the little girl was already stepping out from behind the boxes, her small hand reaching toward the woman. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, her innocence cutting through the tension. His stomach knotted, a storm raging within him. "No, get back." But she didn't listen. She walked closer, her heart wide open, seeing only the suffering in front of her. "I can help you," she declared, naive yet brave. "Stop," he pleaded, panic rising. "You don't know her. He could feel the walls closing in on him, the past clawing at his throat as he struggled to maintain control. The mother's eyes brightened, glimmering with something the hope of rekindled connection, as if the years of silence had never existed. "You're not a child anymore. You're a man now. So much time has passed. Things can be different. Things can't change," he snapped, voice laced with pain. "You left. You abandoned us. And I'm not letting you do that to her." The tears pricked his eyes, burning with unspoken anguish. The little girl looked back at him, confusion clear on her small face. "But she needs help. Trust me," he whispered, feeling the weight of his choices bearing down. "She is not safe. None of us are." In an instant, a loud crash echoed from the main street, sending a fresh wave of chaos spilling into the alley. The ground shook a bit, sending a few scattered boxes tumbling. The mother's face paled as she stumbled backward, her eyes darting wildly. "Did you hear that?" she asked, fear breaking through her fragile mask of courage. Before he could respond, the little girl tugged on his sleeve again, her voice trembling. "What is happening, Dad?" He stood frozen, caught between the shattered pieces of his past and the flickering flame of hope the girl represented. The sirens wailed again, drawing closer, drowning all rational thought. "Stay back," he shouted suddenly, pushing the little girl behind him. Instinct kicked in as he took a protective stance, muscles tensed and ready. Whatever was coming, they couldn't let it take everything from them again. As shadows converged and footsteps echoed down the alley, he realized time was running out. He needed to face both his past and the uncertainty of his future. Would he rise to the occasion, or would he let fear dictate the end of their story? A figure loomed at the alley entrance, blocking their escape. The moment had come. The figure at the alley entrance stepped forward, revealing a tall man clad in a black trench coat, his expression unreadable behind dark sunglasses. He moved with an eerie confidence, the kind that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. "Get back," he yelled, instinctively placing himself between the girl and this newcomer. The mother's breath hitched behind him, the tension in the air thick enough to cut with a knife. Now, the stranger said, his voice smooth but tainted with a chilling undercurrent. "No need for hostility. I'm not here to hurt anyone." With a slight gesture, he removed his glasses, revealing cold, calculating eyes that seemed to pierce right through to their souls. "What do you want?" he demanded, heart racing as the sirens continued to wail in the distance. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The little girl clutched his shirt, her small fingers digging in tighter. "I'm just an observer," the man replied, a sly smile creeping onto his lips. "But I can assure you, the situation is more complicated than you think." His gaze drifted over to the woman, sharpening as if he could smell her fear. "Stay away from her," he shouted, his voice cracking, knowing full well how fragile his mother had become. As the shadows enveloped them, secrets began slipping through cracks he thought had been sealed forever. "This isn't a fairy tale anymore," the stranger continued, his tone switching from smooth charm to a harsh, almost accusatory whisper. "People don't just appear out of nowhere. What brings you back in your son's life after all these years?" The mother shifted nervously, her face stricken with panic. "I had no choice," she stammered, glancing toward him as if seeking reassurance. But he could not offer her any. The scars of their past felt fresh again, raw and exposed. "You should kept your distance," he spat, anger surging. Why weren't they running? Why did they stand there like lambs before a wolf? The man laughed softly, a sound devoid of warmth. "And what would you have done differently? Run away again?" "Stop," the little girl cried, pressing into him as she felt the heartbreak. She could sense the pulse of fear in the air that even an adult could overlook. "I just want us to be safe." A silence descended, filled with heavy breaths and unspoken truths. He was struck by the innocence of the girl, her heart laid bare while the adults struggled with their demons. "Breathe, sweetheart," he said, trying to dispel the darkness crowding the alley. He needed to protect her. Her safety mattered more than anything else. "Let us just talk this through. We can find a way out." At that moment, the sudden hoot of nearby cars honked angrily, creating a distraction. The stranger's eyes flicked towards the noise, revealing a flicker of uncertainty. His heart raced at the opportunity. "Run!" he yelled, grabbing the little girl by the hand and pushing her toward the darkened entrance of the alley. But she hesitated, glancing back at her grandmother. "Mom, it's okay," the mother said, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Go. I'll be right behind you." The man hesitated, caught in a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Could he truly leave her behind again? But when he looked back, the stranger was closing in, a predatory grin stretching across his face, and he knew he had no choice. They darted deeper into the shadows as the echo of footsteps followed. Fear thundered in his chest, and the truth gnawed at him. How could he protect his daughter and avoid the fate he faced as a child? The weight of their hurried footsteps was a desperate rhythm against the chaos outside, and that was when a gunshot ripped through the night, freezing the air around them. His pulse thundered in his ears. What was happening? Had he put them in more danger? As they rounded the corner, he turned to see the figure from the alley still pursuing them, but now masked in darkness. He could almost feel the tension snap like a taut wire. He had to act, but where would he draw the line? Who could he trust in this moment when everything unraveled around him? A second shot rang out, and the question loomed large. How far would he go to protect what was left of his family? And then, like a cruel twist of fate, the mother's voice cut through the chaos. "Stop!" she screamed, holding up her hands, and he recognized her fear was now directed at him. What did she know that he didn't? His breath caught in his throat as he locked eyes with his mother. Confusion rippled through him. "What do you mean, stop?" he shouted over the din. He instinctively tugged the little girl closer, her small body trembling against his side. They were running on pure adrenaline, but now it felt like a pause in their flight, like standing still at the edge of a precipice. "Please," she pleaded, her voice cracking as she lowered her hands, shaking like leaves in a gale. "You need to listen. He is not who you think he is." The stranger's grin widened, his pleasure in their obvious instability apparent. "Such drama, don't you think?" His voice dripped honey, yet there was poison underneath. "Perhaps the lady knows more than she is letting on." "Shut up," he shouted, teeth gritted. "You don't know anything." "Oh, but I do," the man replied, tilting his head as if to gauge the truth swirling around them. And her secrets, they could make all the difference. With terror shifting through him like a living thing, he felt the girl squeeze his hand tighter. It was a silent plea for answers, but he had none to give. "Stay where you are," the mother barked, surprising him. Her demeanor shifted. A fierce protectiveness took over. "You don't want to know what I've done to keep you safe. You don't know the half of it." "Safe?" He laughed, a hollow sound that echoed off the alley walls. "You think revealing your true nature now will save me? The truth isn't what you think it is. He is here for a reason," she shouted, and in that desperate cry, he sensed a weakness in her resolve. It felt like she was fighting against chains he couldn't see but could feel dragging her down. The stranger moved closer, each step slow and deliberate, like a lion circling its prey. "Maybe it's about time you heard the story. There is so much more buried beneath the surface. Wouldn't you agree?" "What do you want?" he snapped, overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment. He had always felt compelled to protect his family, but now the lines were blurred. "What is your game?" "Ah, the game," the man mused, glancing at the little girl. "Families, they're like chess pieces, easily sacrificed for a more significant win." "Isn't that right, dear?" She whimpered slightly, and he felt rage boil beneath his skin. "You leave her out of this. She is just a child." "A child, yes," the man said, his voice silky. "An innocent one, caught in the crossfire of her family's sins. You have no idea how complicated it all is, do you?" His mind raced. He couldn't process everything: the echo of gunfire, the chaotic emotions, the lurking presence of a man who seemed to hold all the answers, yet concealed them behind a mask of cruelty. What was the secret that had come back to haunt them? The more he thought about it, the more fear coiled inside him. choking him. "Tell me," he pleaded, desperation spilling into his tone. "Only if you agree to listen to understand your mother-esque choices." He ground his teeth. "And if I refuse? Then you'll witness the repercussions of the darkness she's hidden from you," he said coldly, his voice echoing with sinister promise. Glancing back at his mother, hurt and confusion warring within him, he felt an overwhelming urge to protect her. But who was the real danger here? The stranger or the truths that threatened to surface? He hesitated, poised on a knife's edge. "What do I have to do?" A sly smile crossed the stranger's lips. "Just open your heart, and perhaps the light will finally break through the shadows." But as he reached for the revelation, a sharp sound split the air, a third gunshot, closer this time. They weren't out of danger yet. "Go now," his mother cried, and with those frantic words, he sensed the urgency. There was a hidden urgency, a reason for her fear that transcended him. "Come with us," he shouted, but something flickered in her eyes, regret, perhaps, or acceptance of a past that weighed too heavily. The girl tugged at his sleeve, her intuition stronger than his own confusion. "Dad, we have to go. And leave her," he cried, panic swelling like a tidal wave. "Trust me," she urged, pulling him toward the alley's mouth. And as they turned to run, the realization dawned he might have to face the darkest truths alone. And behind them, the mother whispered, "You don't truly know what love is until you're tested." What did she mean? The question hung in the air as they fled, echoing in his mind, when there was the unmistakable sound of footsteps approaching. Were they finally trapped, or was this the moment that would change everything? Heart pounding, he squeezed the little girl's hand, and they darted into the bustling streets, feet pounding the pavement like frantic drums. The noise of the city enveloped them, but the upcoming shadows loomed large in his mind. He glanced back, half expecting to see the stranger barreling toward them. "What now, Dad?" the girl asked, her voice thin and small against the clamor. Fear painted her youthful eyes, deeper than the shadows that trailed them. "I don't know," he admitted, clenching his jaw as adrenaline surged. He scanned the crowd, searching for signs of danger. "We just need to get somewhere safe." The girl tugged at his hand again, urgency pushing her forward. "But the man," he said, "Mom has secrets." "What does that mean? Is it why everyone is after us?" A sharp twist of pain erupted in his chest. He would protect her, he had to. "Just stay close, okay?" They barely reached the corner of the street when they spotted a nearby cafe with oversized glass windows. He steered them toward it, the warmth inside beckoning like a refuge. Heart racing, he shoved the door open, ushering the girl inside. The little bell above the entrance chimed, a soft, innocent sound against the clanging chaos outside. Once inside, he ordered 2 steaming cups of coffee, the bitter aroma cutting through the thick air of worry. He needed to think, to devise a plan, but his mind remained clouded by doubt and fear. "Dad?" He turned, the girl perched on a stool, eyes wide. "What happens if you and Mom really are different?" The question struck him like a punch. Of course they were different. He was a man trying to save his family. But what about her? He glanced toward the window, the outside world glaring back at him, quick footsteps echoing back into his mind. Before he could respond, the cafe door swung open, and time seemed to stall. The stranger stepped inside, his figure slicing through the bright light like a specter. A chill crept up his spine as their eyes met across the crowded space. "Don't look," he hissed at the girl, but it was too late. She turned, face pale, and the stranger's smile widened. "Ah, it appears love is indeed in the air," he said, voice a smooth honey that dripped resentment. "But isn't love supposed to protect us, dear boy?" The air thickened with tension. He fought the instinct to recoil, every part of him wanting to dash through the back exit. But something more primal held him in place, a protective instinct that shouted for him to stand his ground. "Leave us alone," he yelled, unsure if he sounded brave or desperate. The cafe appeared suddenly claustrophobic, a trap closing in on him, and a flicker of doubt stirred within him. "Do you really think you're safe here? Secrets, they're like shadows, always lurking, waiting for a chance to reveal themselves." The stranger's eyes glinted with a cruel light. The girl shifted closer to him, her small fingers gripping the edge of the counter like it was the only thing grounding her, and a wave of protectiveness surged through him. He couldn't let this man pull her into the chaos. Not now. What do you want? He spat, rage pumping through his veins. What do you know? Ah, but that's just it, the man said, leaning closer, his breath cool against the flow of the cafe. I know everything there is to know about your family. Everything that leads to this very moment. Stop it. His heart raced, the familiar warmth of anger igniting in his chest. You don't know anything about us. Tested by the fire of truth, are we? I wonder what you will choose when it's your turn to sacrifice the man, as words hung in the air, thick and foreboding. He felt an instinctual shiver run down his spine. What was he saying? What sacrifice? As chaos erupted outside the cafe, the screams of the crowd drowning out reason, an unsettling thought settled in his gut. Was it time to confront the family's dark legacy? Just as the realization hit him, the lights flickered overhead, plunging the cafe into momentary darkness. Heart hammering, he felt his grip on the girl tighten as reality unfolded in pieces around them. He turned, ready to shield her from the impending storm. Was it time to face the truth or run into oblivion? The weight of choice loomed large, and the stranger's laughter echoed in his mind, taunting him. Make your move, brave boy. And as he stood on the edge of the unknown, another gunshot rang out, sending his blood cold. This fight was far from over, and choices would have consequences he couldn't begin to fathom. How long could they evade the hunt? And could he protect the ones he loved from the truths spiraling dangerously close? The darkness didn't last long, but the noise outside surged like a tidal wave. The chilling echo of sirens clawed at his nerves. He could feel the girl press into him, her small body trembling like a leaf caught in a storm. Dad, what is happening? Her voice barely reached him over the chaos, a sweet echo amid the madness. Swallowing hard, he raked a hand through his hair, trying to shake the sense of dread pooling in his stomach. I don't know, honey, he whispered, forcing calm he didn't feel. Just stay behind me. As the lights flickered back to life, he caught sight of panicked faces in the cafe, people darting glances toward the windows. His heart raced, realizing the truth. They were trapped. The doors felt like an iron gate, sealing them in the very moment he feared them most. Suddenly, the stranger leaned closer, his face a disturbing mask of delight. What's wrong? Don't you want to know the real reason why chaos now dances at your doorstep? Shut up, he barked, stepping in front of his daughter, the fire of protection igniting wildly within him. Ah, the brave protector. But the truth has its own claws, doesn't it? Especially when it rakes across family ties. The stranger traced a finger along the counter, casually, as if taunting them. Your family's legacy is burdened by secrets, boy, and those secrets are hungry. The girl clutched his shirt, her eyes wide as she searched his face for answers he didn't have. What does he mean, Dad? Fear caught in his throat like a jagged piece of glass. He couldn't let her know. Couldn't risk exposing her to this twisted web of truth. He's lying, he said, though the words sounded hollow even to him. He's just trying to scare us. Scare you? The stranger feigned shock, then let out a throaty laugh. Oh, dear boy, the truth is much scarier than mere lies. Think of all those who would go to great lengths to protect what is rightfully theirs. Think of your mother, the secrets she hides from you. From everyone. All rose in his throat. What had he stumbled into? His knees felt weak with the realization that perhaps there was more at stake here than simple evasion. This sinister man wasn't just an enemy. He was a key to unveiling a hidden past. But why now? Suddenly, the door swung open again, tempers flared into the cafe. A haggard man rushed in, desperation plastered across his face. You have to get out of here. They're coming. The stranger's eyes gleamed with excitement. There it is, the host, the herald of more chaos. Can you feel the weight of your choices, boy? His mind was racing. Moments ago, he was focused on protecting his daughter. Now he had an entire storm gathering outside, and the man before him wasn't just delusional. He was dangerous, calculating, and all too aware of the secrets lurking beneath the surface. "Who?" he asked the newcomer, voice steady but laced with a mounting tension. "Who is coming?" "The ones who know," the man replied, wild eyes darting. "You can't hide from them. You must confront your past before it devours you whole." Outside, more screams echoed, mingled with the sound of clattering feet. The cafe patrons began to bolt for the exits, panic taking over. "Get the girl out," the stranger shouted, an undercurrent of madness in his voice. Time is ticking. He swallowed, eyes darting between the frantic scene before him and his daughter, who clung to him like a life raft. He had to make a decision, one that would determine their fate. Could he confront the darkness looming over them, or was running into the unknown their only option? Just as he took a breath to respond to the stranger's deranged ramblings, the lights went out again, completely this time, plunging the cafe into a suffocating darkness that felt alive, pulsating with danger. In that enveloping black, a loud crash shattered the silence. Someone burst through the door. Who were they? Friend or foe? The weight of fear pressed heavily upon him, visions of breaking chains clashing against held secrets. The air thickened, disbelief coiling around them like a serpent waiting to strike. "Time to decide, brave boy." The stranger's voice reverberated through the void, dark and sinister. He took a deep breath, heart pounding, mind racing, unsure whether to fight or flee. But as the looming threats pressed in, he knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning of the nightmare. Who would emerge from the darkness? And would any secrets ultimately be revealed? With adrenaline coursing through his veins, he felt the weight of the darkness closing in. The cafe was a battleground, filled with screams and the chaos of panicked patrons. The stranger's presence loomed large, a shadowy figure with a sinister grin. He tightened his grip on the little girl, her soft weight reassuring yet a reminder of everything at stake. "Run," he shouted, urging her toward the back exit, just as the lights flickered back on only to reveal the stranger was closer than before, eyes gleaming with something that made his skin crawl. The air buzzed with palpable tension, and he felt the panic thrum through every person in the cafe. "Get out! Go!" he shouted again, pushing the little girl through, desperate to shield her from what he feared was to come. Just as they reached the door, a collective gasp erupted from the crowd. He turned, instinctively stepping in front of the girl as the stranger lunged forward. Time slowed, and in that distorted moment, he could see every detail on the man's face, the predatory gaze that promised destruction. But he would not let that happen. "Not today. What do you want from us?" he barked, voice roiling with fire and defiance. "From you?" the stranger replied, tilting his head, amusement playing at the corner of his lips. "I want nothing. It's the secrets that crave your attention, boy. Don't you want to know what truly lurks in the shadows of your family?" The walls felt like they were closing in as his breath quickened. The past was flooding into the present, raw and unfiltered. But this time would be different. He would not be dragged into the abyss again. "Stop trying to manipulate me," he shouted, his voice growing stronger, riding the surge of protection he felt toward the girl, who stood trembling behind him. "Leave us alone." But the stranger didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped closer, eyes locking onto his. "You think you can run from this? You think you're in control?" He could feel the uncertainty shifting through his body as questions pounded in his mind. Was he really ready to confront the truths that lay buried? The heart-wrenching reality that had shattered his childhood? Or would he flee from it once again? In that moment of hesitation, the little girl tugged at him, her voice breaking through the fog. "Dad, what's wrong? Why is he talking about secrets?" His heart ached at her innocent inquiry, the innocent connection breaking through the tension. "It's nothing to worry about, sweetheart," he said, not entirely certain if he was convincing her or himself. The stranger laughed a low, chilling sound that sent waves of dread rushing through him. "Oh, but it is something. You may not realize it now, but those secrets have teeth, and they bite." Without thinking, he stepped forward, drawing a line in the sand. Enough of your twisted games. Tell me what you want, and let us leave. He felt his resolve harden as the stranger scanned him. I want you to understand what your mother did, why she turned away after all those years. But I won't force you into my world unless you truly wish to know. Something shifted in the room. People moved like shadows, uncertain but aware that they too were part of this unfolding drama. He glanced around. The tension was thickening, every set of eyes glued to the unfolding tableau. Let them go, he demanded, voice ringing strong. You'll have to answer to me, not them. The little girl's hand tightened in his. You're brave, Dad, she murmured, and that simple statement wrapped around his heart like a shield. In that moment of clarity, he remembered his mother's words echoing in the depths of his consciousness. You don't truly know what love is until you're tested. Fine, he spat, feeling the fiery resolve settling in his bones. Show me. Reveal the truth. But if you intend to hurt us, I swear. The man leaned back slightly, an amused smirk flickering across his lips. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm here to help you find your way away, to navigate through this labyrinth of choices and darkness. Or, if you prefer, away from it altogether. Don't listen to him, Dad. Please. He cast a glance at the girl. What choice did he have? Could he unearth the twisted truth buried beneath layers of pain, or was it better to bury the past for good? His voice cracked slightly, laden with uncertainty but buoyed by determination as he whispered, Tell me everything. Suddenly, the stranger's demeanor shifted. The darkness that had surrounded him lifted slightly, as if he were a puppet freeing himself from tangled strings. Very well. It's about time you learned the real reason why your family dances with shadows. As the stranger took a step back, readying himself to unveil the hidden reality, a sense of unease rippled through him. He knew that this moment would change everything. Would the truths unleashed be more dangerous than the enemy they faced? As the shock of revelation hung in the air like gunpowder, he realized that only by facing the storm head-on could he begin to unravel the ties that had bound him for so long. It was the moment he had to choose, the crossroads of past and future. Right then, the truth had its grip, tightening like a noose ready to squeeze. Hold tight, he whispered to the little girl, pushing forward, courage mixing with fear. They were teetering on the edge of something monumental, a truth that could either liberate them or shatter the fragile connection they had left. The stranger began to speak, the chilling reality of their intertwined destinies unfolding like a tapestry before them. No turning back now. It was time to confront the darkness, not just for himself, but for the little girl whose unwavering faith offered a glimmer of hope in their chaotic world. The words formed in the air, swirling like a tempest. He braced himself for what lay ahead. He knew that digging through family secrets meant surfacing old wounds. But he was not just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for her, for the chance to reclaim their future amidst the shadows that whispered their name. This battle would forge them a new billionaire or not. He was still a father, and now, nothing would keep him from protecting what mattered most. And whether the secrets would save them or engulf them, he was ready to face whatever storm would come next together. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, because your support means everything. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.